Hey everybody, it's Angela, and I am back with another altered book that I'm going to turn into a binder. And I have this plastic deer, and I just cut off some of the pieces on the back so that it would lay a little flatter. And I got this at the Dollar General. It was on a stick that had a bow on it. I think it's a floral pick that you're supposed to add to your Christmas centerpiece or wreath or something to that effect. But I was wanting to put it on the front of a book. And so, again, I'm trying to get this as flat as possible to lower the profile and make it sit against a book. And you can see there I'm just sanding it and sanding those antlers, kind of making sure that it's going to sit flat. And so I just spend a little bit of time sanding on this. And the book I want to add this to is an old, I think 30s or 40s zoology book, and I'm going to use the pages for something else, but I thought I'd go ahead and turn the book cover into a binder. And so I really wanted to add something that, would really be that special piece on the front of it, and I thought this would work. And so what I'm going to do is, after I get this sanded down to where it's flat enough to kind of fit on my book, then I want to go ahead and alter it, because right now it's silver and black, and which would work great in a lot of Christmas things, but not really for this book, which is kind of more in a I don't know, I couldn't figure out if that was supposed to be green or brown, that book. So I wind up making it a little bit more green with some different inks here. I'm going to alter the edges with brown just to give it a little bit more worn look. So I'm just taking some of my distress ink and going around the edges with that. And then I also have the distress ink in green. And I do wind up using some sprays on this later too, because right now it just wasn't quite green enough for me. So I go ahead and I pull out some of my Lindy's Stamp Gang sprays and some of my Tattered Angel sprays, just in greens and browns. And I want to make this look very foresty, because kind of where you would see a deer. And I like the little illustrations on the bottom, little turtle and grasshopper, and I think that's an amoeba or something, I don't know. And so I wanted to leave those, but I have that nice big gap between the title and those illustrations that I can put this deer. So I'm just going to add a little bit more spray to this, I don't know, just to make the cover look a little more worn and to give it a little bit more green look. Otherwise, with the spine and stuff, I don't really do anything to it. The main focus of the front of the book is going to be that deer head. And I'm just looking through for different greens and browns that'll work. I want it to be somewhat subtle, but I do want it to have a kind of worn look. And of course I'm spraying it all over my desk and have to clean everything up. So I wind up getting a different box later, because this one doesn't have a lid to use as a backer to keep all the spray contained. But so I just go ahead and do this, and then sometimes I blot it up and smear it around, and just trying to get the look that I want, something that I like. So I set that aside to dry, and I'm taking some gesso, and I have kind of taken that sanding block and sanded this deer down a little bit just to give it kind of a key for this gesso to stick. And then I'm just going to take the gesso and give this a nice good coat. I'm going to do the back of this because I'm not sure exactly what all you're going to be able to see once I glue this down. So I thought I'd go ahead and do all sides of these antlers. And I'm really having fun doing the binders. This one I knew, because this deer is so dimensional, it's going to stick out quite a ways from the front of the book. So that doesn't make it a book that's going to really lend itself well to bound pages, because if the pages are bound in there, then you have to decorate them, and this cover is not going to fold out flat. You're always going to have the nose of this deer kind of making the cover sit up. So with a binder ring mechanism in there, I can decorate or do my pages flat outside of the book, and then when I'm done, insert them in the book. So it's not really going to make a difference how much dimension I have on the front of this book. And that's kind of why I went, with the binders with something as dimensional as this. So after the gesso dries, I just take some of this distress ink in the vintage photo, and I'm just kind of giving it a light brown coat so that none of the white shows. And I want this to, kind of blend in with my greens and brown foresty theme here. So it's sticking really well to the gesso, and it covered all that silver just fine, so I was really happy with that. But there are a lot of intricate little spaces here. And then once I get this covered with the ink, I want to, give it kind of a worn, kind of watercolory look with some sprays. So I just go ahead and I get a better box for doing sprays and inks and stuff, one that will contain it a little better. And these are just some alcohol inks, and I'm going over it with some brown, and then I have like a green color as well that I put on here, and I also use some of the Lindy's Stamp Gang sprays. And I'm just going to go over this with several different coats and keep playing with it until I get something I like. It's kind of accidental, you never know exactly how it's going to turn out when you start using inks and sprays like this. So you just have to keep playing until you get a look that you really like. And that's the great thing, is you can keep layering over, and the more you layer, the more depth I think it has anyway. So it turned out almost giving it kind of a camo look to it. Once I put that green, you can see how the green ink kind of pushes away some of the brown and kind of gives it a camo pattern. And I also have a little bit of black, and I'm kind of trying to be thoughtful as to where I place the black, and I do it kind of at the base of the antlers and the sides and under here under the chin and stuff. I'm putting darker inks to kind of go where the shadows would normally be. And there I am going back in with a little bit more of this green. I got that drip down his nose. I didn't want him to have too much of a stripe or anything down there, so I just kind of pushed the ink around with the paintbrush. And so I'm really starting to like the look of this. It has a real kind of an old, aged, worn look. And I think that's going to match in really well with my theme. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside to dry. And then I bring back my book, and you can see that big blank space that I had there. I just went ahead and cut a square out of that, a panel out of the front cover. And I went in a depth of about, not quite half an inch, between a quarter and a half, and into the pages of the book as well. And now I'm gluing those pages together, and I've got some wax paper to protect the rest of my book, and that way it just kind of gives me a little cavity in the very front quarter to a half inch of the book. And that's where I'm going to insert some of the deer head, and then I'm going to also glue just that quarter inch of the pages on the outside. That way you don't have to glue every page together. You just glue the outside edges, and it holds that as a one block. So I'm just going to go ahead and and this is a matte gel. This is the a matte medium gel, which is a glue like Mod Podge. Anything like that will work. Again, I'm just going to kind of clean those up, and then I will set that aside to dry and take the wax paper out, and then I decorated it, and you can see here, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I used hot glue to stick the deer head in there, and then I used some punch outs from a collection, and I'll show that here in just a second. I put a little butterfly on his antler, and lots of little foliage to kind of make him look like he's peeking out of the foliage and sticking his head right out of the front of the book. And I put some stickles on there to give it some sparkle. And this is the collection I used, 49 and Market Vintage Artistry Naturalist Collection. And there are the punch outs that I used mostly to do all the decoration. And here you can see them. You get 2 pages of each in this 6x8 paper pad collection. And what I did was, after I put some of that same paper on the front and back covers and put my binder mechanism in, and between the binder mechanism and those exterior pages I had quite a little gap or crease right there, and so I covered that with some of this book repair tape, which is kind of a fabric tape to kind of span those edges and just kind of clean it up and make it, look a little bit more professional. And I think I'm going to use this book to put in pictures that I've drawn. I just pulled some that I had, so these aren't the ones that I'm going to use permanently, but I think I'm going to draw some special images for this book and just store some of my drawings and things that I do of animals and things I see around the farm. So I had these already in my collection of birds that I've drawn and a rabbit, and I stuck them in there, but I think I'm going to cut a bunch of watercolor paper and stuff the right size and just kind of use it as my nature journal. And when I get pages that I really like or drawings that I really like, I'm going to put them in this book and have a nice place to kind of display them. So that is my finished project, and I really love how it turned out. I mean, it's pretty simple. I didn't do anything to the spine or the back or anything. I've just got some sprays, but I think that deer head kind of just is the big focal point, so I didn't really have to do too much else to it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions on anything that I did here, just leave me a comment down below, and I had a lot of fun doing this. So I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.